Well, hey everybody, here's the camper van project we've been working on for the last couple of years. It's a 2018 Ford Transit long body cargo van. It's got a 6-cylinder gas engine, rear wheel drive. It's got about 20,000 miles on it. It's in pretty good shape. You can see we put in some windows. There's 2 on each side. That involved cutting big holes in the sheet metal with a saber saw, and was one of the most nerve-wracking things I ever did, but it went fine, and I like the way they look. Down here I've got a couple of power ports. The one on the bottom here is for AC, and if we have shore power, I can plug into that with a regular extension cord, and that powers up the whole van. It'll run the lights and the refrigerator and everything else, and it'll recharge the batteries. The other port here is for the solar power. I can plug in using this Anderson power pole connector. That's a 15-foot cable that I have going back to this Renogy portable solar panel. It's a 200-watt unit. It folds in half and goes in that carry case, and we can use that to top up the batteries when we're parked out in the sticks. Obviously, I pretty much am never going to need to have AC and solar hooked up at the same time. Open up the back here, you can see these nice curtains that Megan made. They're fastened in with hooks and magnets. It'd be pretty easy to take them down while we're driving, put them back up when we're parked for privacy. Here you can see we really designed the entire build around this store-bought queen-sized mattress. We didn't want to have to take furniture apart or put our bed together out of seat cushions or do some kind of goofy conversion to get into bed at night. The bed is here, it's always ready, all we got to do is crawl in. There's a reading light on each side. It's a little gooseneck thingy like that. You can also see got these little temporary pedestals built here to hold the fixtures. There's a USB outlet, and the white thing is a power switch for the LED lights here in the back. I want to build some better consoles there that will have cup holders and a tray, and I'm going to make some upholstered lids to cover this space so it'll act like a armrest and a little extension to the bed, and when you lift those up you'll have all this space for storage. So you can pretty easily get a weekend's worth of clothes in each side of this storage slot here. Looking up, you can see the 8 LED lights in the ceiling. Lights the place up pretty well. There's 4 in the front, 4 in the back, operated off of different switches, and those are on dimmers as well, so you can ramp down the intensity if you want. I started building the whole thing out of this tongue and groove planking, but after I got the ceiling done, I had second thoughts and decided to do the rest of it just with plywood. So the basic technique is to use 1/2-inch furring strips attached to the metal structure of the van, and then screwed 1/4-inch plywood on top of that. The screw holes got spackled and sanded smooth and then painted, so you get a fairly nice smooth finish. Looking down under here, you can see there's pretty generous cargo space, room for all kinds of stuff. That back there is a 30-gallon water tank, and it's actually fairly easy to disconnect it and pull it right out the back of the van for servicing. You probably want to clean it and dry it after each trip. There's a cabinet there for a set of drawers, and you can also see this really beefy bed frame that my buddy Steve built out of 2-inch aluminum square stock. It's very strong, very rigid. It's bolted into the walls of the van, and it didn't need any sort of central support. This is a waterproof vinyl laminate flooring, and let's go on around to the passenger side here. There's this big sliding door that opens up here, get you into the living space. But first, want to point out the swivel plate that I installed on the passenger seat. That allows this seat to swivel all the way around and become part of the living area, which is kind of important because we don't have a lot of space or a lot of seating in here. You can step up in here And one of the things I really like about the Ford Transit is how much headroom you have. I'm 6'1", and I can stand fully upright and still have at least close to 4 inches between my head and the top of the ceiling there. It's definitely more roomy than a lot of other vans I've looked at out there. The one thing you might notice is the total lack of overhead storage. And honestly, that's one of the things I have not liked about a lot of the van builds that I've studied online, is that this space all gets hogged up with cabinets and shelves and cubbies, and it ends up being top heavy and claustrophobic, I think. One of my goals here was to try to make this as open and spacious as I possibly could. And so for a gangly guy like me who's really clumsy, I need a lot of room. And so this works out pretty well. I like the way it looks. And we have plenty of storage down low, which I'll show you in a minute. Aside from what's under the bed and all that storage alongside the bed, there's quite a lot of drawer space as well. You see the color scheme is the same as the front of the van. It's gray on top, darker gray on the bottom. We got color match paint and just carried that same color scheme all the way through the van. So it's simple. I like the color. I think it's nice. It's a nice neutral, cool gray. And overall, I'm pleased with the aesthetic that we got here, with the contrast of the wood textures and the different colors. I'm sitting down in the passenger seat now, and you can see that the living space is really defined by these cabinets that I built. And I would point out that I've never built anything like this, not even close. So there was a big, long learning curve for me. I'm very fussy in the way I build things. I'm not very fast to start with, and all of this went extremely slow, which is my main excuse for taking as long with it as I did. This cabinet here is kind of double wide, and it has a little love seat on it. And that's not passenger seating. There's no seat belts or anything. It's just for living space. If you get in here, these lids actually open up, and there's all this cabinet space underneath. This is the electrical cabinet. There's two lithium batteries in there. Those are connected together in parallel to make a 12-volt, 200-amp system. There's an AC charger, a DC to DC charger, and solar controller. There's also a fuse box. There's main switches. There's circuit breakers, bus bars, and all sorts of stuff fit into this cabinet here. If you look out over here, there's a big red switch. That's for the DC to DC charger. If we're driving the van and we want to charge the batteries, I can reach back and turn that switch on, and it will use extra power from the van's alternator to charge up the lithium batteries for the house. Up here is a Victron power monitor, which is really handy. It shows you what kind of voltage you've got coming off the battery, and you can scroll through some different settings, shows you how many amps and watts you're using, and it will even give you an estimate of how many hours you have till you run out of juice. Over here is the porta potty, which will really just be for emergencies because we're never too far from some facilities, but you never know when you're out on the road. That silver thing on the right is a fold-out table that I can set up. It's just a little table that I can put right here in the living space when we're hanging out. And that darker thing on the left is a step stool that I can put right there to make it easier to get in and out of bed. This cabinet here is for the fridge, and that's a good-sized little NovaCool refrigerator. And there's a big utensil drawer here, very first drawer I ever built. You see there's a vent here to allow warm air up out of the refrigerator area. This countertop is made of sapele. It's an African wood. This is a butcher block slab that I bought from Home Depot. The backsplashes are made from poplar. You can see I've got a couple outlets here. This is a USB port. We've got these all over the place. I've got one on each side of the galley and one on each side of the bed. Each one of these is protected by its own little panel switch. So you can turn those off when you're not using the ports, and you won't waste any power that way. This AC adapter outlet only works when we're plugged into shore power. I don't have an inverter in my power system for AC. I just have one auxiliary outlet that we can use if we're plugged into hookups and we want to run a space heater or something like that. We have the option of doing that. Looking over here, there's these two big cargo drawers, and these are huge drawers. We can get a lot of groceries, liquor, and whatnot in there. And you see, they just kind of lock shut. So you push it shut and it's locked. It doesn't want to just come open. You have to actually push it to get it open. So 2 big drawers there. Over here is the rest of the galley. It's a 2-burner Dometic propane gas stovetop. In order to turn on the gas, you'd first turn on the tank, which is inside this locker here, and it's already turned on. That down there is a propane detector. It will let me know if there's a leak. It sounds a very loud alarm if there's any leakage. Turn on the gas down there. Then you've got a safety key here. Turn on the gas here. And then you can turn on the stove. Just turn it on and hit it with that electric clicker. Turns right on. So you got 2 burners here. Works great. Those will go down to a very low simmer. A little cast iron grill on top. You can close that up and it gives you a nice, you know, attractive flat space on top. And you can close the safety key, and you could hide that key away somewhere. Makes it pretty much impossible to accidentally turn on the stove. Over here is the sink. Pretty nice little stainless steel bar sink. It's got this integrated cutting board that fits right in the top to give you some more flat space. It's probably too nice to actually use as a cutting board. I imagine we'll have some plastic cutting board for chopping up chicken. But this will mostly just be, I think, decorative, and it looks nice. There's this weird strainer in here. It's gigantic. I'm not sure if we're really going to need that. Here's the sink itself. To use the sink, you got to get into the plumbing cabinet first. This is where all the water stuff is. There you can see the 30-gallon water tank coming right into the cabinet. It makes it very easy to look and see how much water is in there. You can disconnect these fittings and pull the whole tank right out the back for servicing. There's a main switch right there, which is already on. This is the 4-gallon wastewater tank that's collecting water from the sink. In the back there you can see the water pump and the pressure accumulator. And then up in that back corner is a secondary fuse box that powers all the electrical loads on the passenger side of the van. All the plumbing is in that cabinet, so there's nothing hidden away in the walls. If I have a leak or some kind of problem, it'll be fairly easy to get to it in there. So once you got the water turned on, you can go ahead and turn on the water pump. That little blue light lets you know that it's on. So that's it. You're ready to run the water. You get quite a bit of pressure coming out of there. And the pump really only runs while the sink is on. Once you turn it off, it takes a second to repressurize, and then it shuts itself off again. So it's pretty neat the way that works, I think. So anyway, that's the sink. Turn off the water pump when you're not using it. There's a little bit of storage in this cabinet too. Got a utensil drawer here, a couple little deeper storage drawers in here. So really, we've got lots of drawers and space next to the bed and space under the bed. I don't think we're going to miss not having any overhead storage here. Here's the area fan. It's a little Scirocco fan that swings out like this, and it's got a kind of a 360 gimbal adjustment that will go in just about any angle you want to put it at. Set it where you want it. And then it's got 3 different speeds. Puts out a real nice little breeze. And that just folds up against the wall again when you're not using it. There's also a ceiling fan, an exhaust fan punched right up through the roof. It's got a waterproof, weatherproof hatch over it. So when you turn on the fan, the hatch opens up. That's that little grinding noise you hear there. And then the hatch is open, now the fan's running. And that's just an exhaust fan to try to keep condensation down inside. It's really important. Turn that off and the hatch automatically closes. This came with a remote control unit too that you can use to turn it on and off really from anywhere in the van. Let's see, I also wanted to show you this neat little dog bed that Megan made. That sits up on top of the love seat like this. and gives a nice, nice comfortable little bed for Buddy to ride in when we're on the road. And then we can put that down on the floor, on the ground, and give him a place to hang out. So I think that came out looking really nice. Let's see, there was one other thing in the cabinet here I want to show you. This is the part of the cabinetry that faces out. If you open this up and open this up, you've got an Insta-Hot water propane heater here. Turn on the gas, turn on the water, and it's all activated by this little thumb switch. When you turn this on, hot water comes out. And so you get a good hot shower, and it is really hot. And so I don't know how much we'll actually use it, because so often we camp in state parks and national parks that already have facilities. But you know, if you're out in some national forest land that has no facilities, a hot shower makes all the difference between being a civilized camper and just being a dirty animal. So it could make a big difference when we're out on the road for longer stretches of time. I think we're mostly going to use this for weekend trips and week-long trips. Not too often going to take really super long trips, and we're definitely not going to be living in it. A few other features I'd point out is here's where we fill the water tank. We can screw a hose into that, fill up the tank. This is a drain hose. I can open a valve inside the van and do a gravity drain on the water tank when it comes time to empty it out. And that does just kind of tuck in there like that when I'm not using it. This cabinet here has the mosquito netting in it. So that's a door that we made that will cover up this big opening right here. So it fastens in with Velcro and magnets, and so that way we can keep the big sliding door open and keep the bugs down to a minimum. So that's pretty much it. I'm pretty pleased with the way it came out. It was a lot of work, but in the end I think it's going to be worth it. We haven't used it yet. It's pretty much ready to roll, even though there's a few things I'm working on. I'll work on those over the winter, and by next spring we'll have it all done. Hoping to do our first big maiden road trip down to the southwest, down to the desert, and we'll really give this thing a good shakeout. So thanks for visiting. Thanks for sitting through all of this. Feel free to leave comments or constructive criticisms down at the bottom. And thanks again for stopping in.